Greetings, comrades. My name is Styx, and today I'm gonna tell you the story of one of the most memorable characters, and not only in the Marvel Universe alone, but in the whole comic world. And the person I'm talking about, as you could have already guessed, is His Chattery Majesty, Deadpool. I tend to believe that only the laziest haven't heard of him as of yet, and that's easily explained by the fact that the army of his fans shows up at every comic convention possible, and internet is literally flooded with the various funny, amusing shots and videos with them taking part. But what is that really makes her guest, Deadpool, stand out of the crowd of other superheroes that didn't manage to catch that much of both attraction and popularity? To begin with, it's worth mentioning that Deadpool is in fact an anti-hero character, so what does that mean? It means that he's not unambiguously good or bad. He's one of those who just does stuff they believe is right to do, and doesn't really care about whether it's considered good or bad by the others. Deadpool is a character of an exceptional charisma. He loves babbling, kicking up a row, and making an ass of all the other superheroes. But first things first, so let's talk about who he actually is and where did he come from. Deadpool's real name is Wade Wilson. He was born as an ordinary boy in a rather ordinary but not so happy family. Before he even reaches 20, he decides to become a mercenary, but he only accepted assassination orders against those who he believed deserved death. And by that, he actually reminded me of the Punisher, another Marvel anti-hero who also had his own perception of justice. And if you want to know more about Punisher, there will be a separate video on my channel, so check it out. But now, let's get back to our today's superstar, Deadpool. After he's been diagnosed with cancer, he breaks up with his girlfriend, leaves his former life behind and departs to Canada, taking part in the project named Weapon X, the main point of which is to inoculate some of the mutant superpowers to humans. In particular, Wade was given the Wolverine's healing factor, temporarily arresting his cancer. But along with his powers came his well-known mental instability, whereby also giving him almost full immunity against telepathy and mind control. Being on one of his missions under Weapon X, Deadpool kills his teammate Slayback, and as a result, he was rejected from the program and sent to the hospice, where all of the failed superhuman operatives were sent in order to get their powers removed. However, instead of that, everyone who was sent there resulted becoming an experimental subject for Dr. Killebrew and his assistant Ajax. There was never any distant glimpse of hope for anyone ever sent to hospice, and the result had always been the same: the imminent and painful death. And so the inmates came up with a game where they put bets on how long each of them would actually live. And the name of that game was, as you could have already guessed, the Deadpool. And when it was Wade's turn to be tortured, he stoically endured all of the sadistic experiments with his body, and later managed to fully restore it due to his newly awakened healing factor, and finally escaped the hospice, killing his torturer Ajax in the process. And right there, Wade takes the name Deadpool and starts the main chapter of his life. His first appearance in the comic series took place in 1991, where he appeared as a mercenary hired to kill Cable and his New Mutants, the teenage unit of X-Men. Originally though, Deadpool was created rather to make a parody on a Deathstroke, supervillain of the DC Universe. The likeness between them both is basically left uncovered. Similarly designed costumes, superpowers obtained via military experiments, and much more, up to the point of them having identical surnames. Nonetheless, all of the above has nothing to do with their personalities, which are totally and completely different. In 1997, Deadpool gets his own comic series, which becomes quite popular due to his unpredictability, his love for the pop culture to which he tends to refer a lot, and to the fact that Deadpool is one of the few comic heroes to ever break the so-called fourth wall, the conditional barrier between the reader and comic characters. In other words, Deadpool understands that he is a fictional comic character, and from time to time he actually speaks to the readers personally. The other thing worth mentioning is that all of his speech bubbles are colored yellow, and that is to make the reader feel that Deadpool's voice is somewhat different from all of the other voices out there. It's not really clear though as how it is actually different, but I guess we should just accept that as a fact and deal with it. Deadpool's suit is quite similar to Spider-Man's one, but Wade believes that it is Parker who copies his costume, and not the other way around, which is of course quite far from reality. Anyhow, let us not forget that Deadpool is not quite all there, and has his own unique perception of reality, let's call it like that. But if Spider-Man without his suit is just a normal guy who tries to make his living as a press photographer, Wade has things much more complicated than that. Like many other anti-heroes, his life went downhill long time ago. Family and character issues with cancer on top of that altogether made him a rather twisted person, to say the least. And speaking of his cancer, many of you might have this kind of question in mind. If Deadpool has a healing factor, why doesn't it cure his cancer then? Well, it's actually not all that simple. The thing is that cancer cells, in fact, are mutated cells of the own subject body. And besides that, Wilson already had cancer by the moment he was given the healing factor, so it kind of accepted that state of the body as normal. And from that point further, Wilson's body produces healthy cells at the same rate as it produces new cancer cells. And this is the never-ending battle. This is exactly the reason why his body is fully covered with a multitude of marks of this constant struggle. Deadpool obviously mentally suffers from all that and tries not to show up without his mask even to the closest of his mates. His life is a never-ending, perpetual, and eternal agony of both body and spirit, so he's not exactly that merry folk everyone assumes he is. And what's more, while being almost dead in the hospice, right before the moment his healing factor kicked in, he met Death, another Marvel character which serves as a Reaper, and falls in love with her. This fact didn't go unnoticed by Thanos, who went totally nuts and cursed Deadpool with the curse of undeath, or curse of life, so that he can never die and see his beloved Death again. These both are the reasons why Deadpool is so obsessed with dying and tries to do that almost all of the time, just to spend another moment with his beloved, until his body regenerates again. In terms of his relationships with other Marvel characters, constancy is not Deadpool's strongest point. He's always switching sides. One second he may willingly help heroes, the other he shoots them in the knees thinking that it is the right thing to do and that he doesn't really need any friends. More of that, he's known as a merc with a mouth, and that's for a very good reason. He just can't shut up. Well, like me. This fact is also well shown in X-Men Origins Wolverine movie dated 2009, where our hero is being played by Ryan Reynolds. However, that movie's Deadpool has almost nothing to do with everything I've been telling you so far, because that's simply an alternative version of the character. Full Deadpool movie comes out in February of 2016, where we'll be told the story of the original, non-alternative Deadpool. The main role is being played by the same actor, Ryan Reynolds, who isn't very new to playing the chattery merc with a twisted sense of humor. Speaking of alternative versions of our character in other Marvel universes, Deadpool had successfully been a woman, a child, a dog, a zombie, and even Venom from Spider-Man. Besides, one of the coolest comic series about Deadpool bears the proud name of Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. And as you might have guessed, it's precisely about that. Deadpool goes completely nuts, mad, insane, and kills such characters as Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, X-Men, the Avengers with the Almighty Hulk, and much more. Then he breaks the fourth wall again, proceeds into the room with his own comic creators, and in the final scene promises to eventually get to us, the readers. We cannot know for sure how exactly the fate of Deadpool will turn out. As we all know, death is not always the end of a story in comic series, and we've seen even such as Superman die to just return again sometime later. But what we know for sure is that Marvel has successfully created a worthwhile and interesting character that has way more depth than it is used to believe when you dig a little bit deeper. To wrap it up, I'd like to say that Deadpool is a Pagliacci of the comic world, the one who hides his pain behind the humor. Being quite an interesting character, Deadpool is not, however, the one and only. So if you liked the video and interested in hearing stories of other comic characters, be it Marvel or DC, make sure to subscribe and make me know in the comment section down below in which of the heroes' stories you are interested the most. My channel is pretty new, but there will be lots of videos about various comic or video game lore, as well as quality game reviews for the PC games, made from the perspective of a Russian gamer with the flavor you won't see anywhere else on YouTube. Thank you for watching, make sure to subscribe. My name has been Styx, from Russia, with love.